Alright, so I want to show you my Vortex Cold Dot Occultist that I played in 3.13. I think this build is great clear speed. It's a bit annoying when you're like starting with it because the moment you get to conquerors and especially 2 or 3 watchstone conquerors, the fights become really difficult. But other than that, the build is quite nice. Again, it lacks single target damage. Um, the version that I'm showing you right now doesn't really lack damage because it has very good items, but generally speaking, when you're like starting with it, um, it's going to struggle against bosses. So it's not like a miner that one-shots the bosses. It takes me around 20 seconds to kill Sirius Awakener 8 on in his last phase. But when you're really like starting and you don't have items, this is going to take you like 5 minutes or something. It's very annoying. That last fight is very annoying. The things I like about this build, it's very tanky. I mean, not really that tanky. It's not like a trickster, but generally it's tanky. As long as you don't take too much damage, like, because if you look at this, I have 12.6k energy shield, and I have a lot of energy shield recharge just because I have this node right here. I guess this also, yeah, so this also gives me faster start of energy shield recharge and increase energy shield recharge rate, but that's not really that necessary. I have this prismatic eye watchers, this prismatic July watcher's eye with chance to block spell damage and faster start of energy shield recharge, which at this point in the league I think they're about 2x alts or something. Like they're very cheap. Um, and also on my rings I have a faster start of energy shield recharge. So what this means is um, whenever I'm taking damage, instead of waiting 2 seconds for the energy shield to recharge, I guess it's around 1 second. I didn't do the math, but it's around there. It's around that. Um, so as long as I'm not taking more than 12k energy shield damage to kill me, if I just stay away from damage for 1 second or so, the energy shield recharge will start and it will not be interrupted by the damage because I have this wicked ward. Um, one thing that I want to talk to you about is um, how expensive this version of the build is. Again, the build can be played as a league starter, but what I'm showing you right now is um, it's the very expensive version of the build with a lot of DPS and so on. So it uses 2 cluster jewels, like, but actually let's just show you a map how the build behaves, and then I'm going to talk about how the build works, because I think that's what people want to see. Um, for people who don't know, the build struggles in open maps such as Canyon, um, and is very good in closed indoor maps such as Excavation that I'm going to showcase you right here. Not that great against Legion. Um, it's okay, clear speed. I'm going to put actually Beyond is nice because I also have Beyond from this node right here. So yeah, the build very fast against in indoor maps such as Academy, Excavation, or Arachnid Nest. Even in terms of clear speed for this build. But again, you play open layouts, uh, this build struggles. Um, as you can see, the area of effect is not that great. So the way this build works is like you have Vortex, which is instant, which is right here on my right click. I have Vortex, I can cast it. And then I have Creeping Frost, which is my main source of DPS, but which is this spell right here, Creeping Frost. I don't use this for clear, it takes a lot of time to cast it, and the area of effect is very small. So for clear speed, I mainly use Cold Snap, which is this spell right here. And as you can see, it leaves a chilling area, and that deals damage over time. Enemies that are in this area, they will be chilled, and because of the gems that I have on it, which is Bone Chill, um, they will take more damage from cold damage over time, like Vortex and Creeping Frost. So, and the reason why enemies explode is because we have this node right here, which is Profane Bloom, and let me show you again so that you pay attention. As you can see, enemies explode. Look, they explode. So it makes it very easy for us to clear maps, just because of that Profane Bloom explosions. What do I need to say? The build struggles against physical damage. There's not really any way to go about it. I have a cinderswallow, a Rumi's concoction, but not that great. Oh, and one important interaction is this spell, Cold Snap. Many of you would know, but some of you don't. Like when you use Cold Snap, it generates frenzy charges, and Cold Snap has like 6 or 7 seconds cooldown, but I can use it all the time, because whenever I use Cold Snap, it consumes 1 frenzy charge and bypasses the cooldown. So I can just go like this and clear all map, but I don't really enjoy that playstyle. I use it from time to time. I use a combination of Cold Snap and Vortex for clearing. The build is okay for rituals. I mean, there's nothing really how should I say it? It's not like a headhunter build where you just stay in the middle and spam Cyclone or Blade Vortex and clear everything. It's decent clear for ritual. Can be a bit annoying in open maps where you just have to run around one monster in the ritual to finish it, but generally speaking it's very good against for ritual. I don't think any build struggles with rituals, to be honest. As you can see, the beyond bosses are a joke. The build can also go very fast if you don't spend time looting and killing everything, because if I run away right now, a lot of monsters will die just to the Degen, because this Cold Snap, it has a lot of area of effect, and the Degen is very nice. But just for the sake of this video, I'm just going to stay more to clear everything. Generally when I play, I just leave a Cold Snap and then run away, because the monsters will anyway die. Here I'm going to showcase you the damage of this build on bosses and what you should expect. So this is how fast I cleared this boss. Which is quite nice. You would say that this is just in DPS. I say this build will almost double this damage when you do gem swaps, but you only do gem swaps for very difficult bosses. I would recommend to do gem swap if you are playing it for the first time and you are encountering conquerors and you can't fight them. And here, but the main issue with this build is like when you first started, it will not have damage. So this is like kind of the damage that you would expect to have is right here. This is kind of how much damage you will deal when you first play the build and you don't have really good items. Kinda this damage. So as you can see, it takes a lot for me to kill the boss, but this is like what you can expect after a few days of playing this build in T16. This is like the damage you would expect it to do to bosses. As you can see, it's not that bad, but it's obviously not fast. I'm just going to finish this map real quick, show you the metamorph. The build struggles a bit against Maven, like not really that great, probably because it doesn't have damage. and if you don't have damage, it's just going to play the memory game a lot of times. So it's quite annoying, but what can you do about that? It definitely can do Maven. I've done it a few times, but it's just like it lacks single target. I mean, not really now because I have good items, but just when you're first playing it, you don't really have good items for it. It lacks single target, so you have to be aware of that. Not really the greatest build for Maven, especially not really the greatest build for Maven encounters. It can do them, the fear and everything, but it's quite hard, to be honest, for this build. It's not like a miner which can do everything regardless of the mods. And yeah, let's just finish this metamorph and then I'm done with this map. I'm using full clarity. Just because I want to spell spam as fast as possible. When you're just stopping, you're not using clarity, so that's why you need the mana regeneration. I don't really have clarity on me, because for bosses, when I'm spamming a lot of spells and I need that mana regeneration, I just use the version of all, and if the clarity is higher level, the Volt version of it will last more, so that's why I'm not using clarity, because I only have 300 mana, and if I'm using a low level Volt clarity, it's just going to last for a few seconds, so that's the main reason why I don't use it. Let's go back to my hideout and explain to you how the build works. So, you start the bosses with Cold Snap, then you use Tipping Frost, Vortex, and Frost Shield. I have Frost Shield here. What this does is it makes me more tanky. Let's just play it again. As you can see, it consumes a lot of my energy shield, and then it recovers. And when I'm staying it, I'm taking less damage from outside damage and a bit more damage. Still less than usual, but a bit more damage from damage that is coming from the inside of the Frost Shield. But it also increases the effect of cold ailments. So with this and with this node right here, deep chill, and I guess also this one, I'm sitting at I guess 29 or 30% chill effect, which is like it's more than enough. So this is like I'm cold snapping. Everybody in this area, in this shield area, will take more damage over time because of the bone chill support, which is very important to have. Enemies in chilling areas have cold damage taken increased by chill effect. Enemies in chilling areas take increased cold damage over time. So this is like 30% more damage. That applies to both my Vortex and my Crippling Frost. It's very important that you use both Vortex and Crippling Frost on a 5-link, because like a 6-link Vortex will not be as much damage as a Crippling Frost, and Crippling Frost is more damage than Vortex. As you can see here, 288, and Vortex has only 277. So just make sure you have Crippling Frost just for single target, because as I said, this build lacks single target. At this moment, my build is around 5.7 shaper DPS, I guess. I'm not really sure, but around that, because so how is it calculated? You use Cold Snap, you use Vortex, Cold Snap, and Crippling Frost, and all this stacked together. Uh, it can be a bit more. It can be about um, what, maybe even 7 million if you take into account the Bane and the Volt Cold Snap, but since Volt Cold Snap is not going to be available all the time, I'm just not taking it into account, because during a Shaper fight you're not always going to have Volt Cold Snap, so that's not really um, something you should take into account. Um, let's just explain how the build works. So in terms of skills, I have Vortex Crippling Frost here on a 5-link each. Swift Affliction, Control Distraction, Elemental Focus, and Efficiency. Then I have Vol Cold Snap with hypothermia. It's very important you have bone chill uh, and hypothermia just because it increases the chill effect um, and efficiency here. As for my mapping, I'm using enfeeble linked to blasphemy, enlighten, and discipline. The reason why I have enlighten is because I also use aspect of the spider. Again, you don't have to use aspect of the spider and you can skip enlighten. Aspect of the spider is just like the end game, but that's what I'm using right now. I'm using phase run. The reason why I'm using phase run is because cold snap is generating a lot of forensic charges. Phase run consumes forensic charges and lasts more, and then with my quicksilver I move very fast. This build does not use shield charge, and shield charge is very bad for hit. So this is like my main movement skill, like this. For mapping, I'm using cinderswallow, Romi's concoction, quartz flask. Quartz flask is not really necessary because you have phase run, but I still prefer to use it because sometimes I don't want to use phase run. So getting into a pack of mobs without having phasing can be deadly sometimes. So that's why I'm using quartz flask for mapping. Then I use Exile flask. Uh, One thing that I want to say is you're probably not going to use neither Rumi's concoction nor cinderswallow until you get element immunity. Um, as you can see here, I have 100% element immunity. Um, the thing that is most important is you get element immunity because ignites are very dangerous for this build. Ignites are damage over time that stops your energy shield recharge. So if you don't have element immunity, I would highly prioritize um, ignite ignite immunity flask and also freeze immunity flask. Um, Here I have temporal chains with frostbite and clarity. I don't use clarity, just the version for clarity for the reason I explained earlier. Frostbite and temporal chains are just for mapping. For actual bosses, I'm using elemental weakness and despair instead of temporal chains and enfeeble. And here on my weapon, it's very important to have trigger socketed spell when you use a skill. And the reason for that is whenever I'm casting a spell, I'm using Frostbomb, which applies a debuff that reduces the enemy's cold resistance by 25%. Then I have Stormbrand, which applies elemental equilibrium, which is this notable right here. So basically, whenever I'm hitting them, it gives them 25% cold resistance and minus 50 to lightning and fire. But since my damage is not coming from the initial hit, as you can see here, Vortex has 30k damage initial hit. It's not coming from this initial hit, but from the area that remains. And the same goes for Creeping Frost and Cold Snap. This area is the main source of damage, and this does not apply elemental equilibrium. So initially, for a short period of time, the enemies will have plus 25% cold resistance, but because I have Stormbrand, which continuously attaches to the enemy and attacks them, it will make the enemies have minus 50% cold resistance and fire, and plus 25 lightning. So just the only issue is just for maps when killing regular monsters, they will die a bit harder just because they will have plus 25 cold res, but that's not a big deal. Something that is very important to talk to you about is these notes right here, and consider even this one. If you don't have a cinderswallow, it's very important that I think you will also have to take this one. These three here are mandatory, and this also is mandatory. And one thing that is very important, you have this increased mana regeneration rate if you've cast the spell recently. Because if you don't have this, as you can see, I'm capable of throwing a lot of spells without much trouble. But if you don't have this enchant, which you can get by doing gift to the goddess. I guess it gives you like 7 or 8 enchantment with twice enchanted. I'm not sure about the exact number, but I guess around 7 or 8 enchants per run. So if you don't want to do the normal lab, but it's very important you get this enchant right here, or you just use a mana flask or use clarity instead, because you'll struggle with mana regeneration during bosses, and that will hurt your DPS. Because if you cannot spam your spells, and it's going to, and occultist has very bad mana regeneration, so that's why I'm picking up these nodes right here, Mystic Bulwark, and these 3 nodes right here. Um, this is the passive tree. Not much to talk to you about it. One thing is I'm not using Orb of Storms, just because when I'm bossing to sustain elemental equilibrium, I have a lot of crit chance just because of using Frost Shield. Yeah, basically you just crit more when you're inside of Frost Shield. That's what I'm saying. So you don't have to use Orb of Storms to sustain elemental equilibrium, and also you don't have to use it to sustain elemental overload. This is the advanced version of the build. I mean the expensive version of the build. Just a cluster jewels with Conjured Wall and Mage Hunter. It's around 4x odds or something. But make sure it has the third notable, which is it can be whatever. But if it doesn't have the third notable, you'll have to travel an extra 1 or 2 points just to get it. So make sure you have a jewel with the Conjured Wall Mage Hunter, and it also needs to have the third notable. The way you craft them is you get a jewel like this, and you just spam Reforged Caster from Harvest if you don't have the money. So I'm using this because I want to be spell blocked capped. And actually I have exactly 75% spell block without the glancing blows. So again, I'm showing you the passive tree. This is like my passive tree. I'm not sure if there's anything better that I can do. It's very important you travel to take these nodes. Probably with level 98 I'm going to take these, and then with 100, if I go for 100, I will take Saltive, just because I think those are the best nodes you can take right now. I'm using the third curse, Whispers of Doom, from here and from my Ascendancy, which is right here with the Malediction. I can apply an additional curse. I'm using 3 curses, again for the bosses like Sirius. I don't think there's a need for me to use Temporal Chains and Enfeeble on Sirius, just because it doesn't really change the fight, so I prefer to use triple damage curse like Despair, Elemental Weakness, Frostbite. What else do I say? It's very important that if you don't have cinderswallow, you take brush with that, just because it gives you recover 1% of energy shield on kill, which is a lot of sustain during fights, during mapping, excuse me. Again, prioritize this Mystic Bulwark and Cursed Concoction, and have this enchant on your boots as soon as possible. These are, or if you don't have them, just use Clarity when you're mapping, when you're bossing, because it's very important. Or use a mana flask. For bossing, I use Sulphur Flask, Taste of Hate, and I drop this Quicksilver and cinderswallow. And also I make sure that my Sulphur Flask has bleed immunity when I'm doing bosses, right? I have this which is bleed immunity, and I also have corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on it, but this build struggles with bleed, so just have double bleed immunity flask when bossing. That's very nice. For my defenses, as you can see, 60% spell block chance, but as soon as I cast some spells, it goes to 75%. And that's not even using Rumi's Concoction. Rumi's Concoction is nice for mapping, Because like with the Ruby's concoction, I have 69% to block projectile and 61 for the attack, um, which is just for mapping purposes. The reason why I'm blocked is like I have recover energy shield when you block, so I'm going to show you real quick um, what this does. So I'm standing in this mouse here, and as soon as they attack me, I recover energy shield. You can see right here, and I can stand here for as much as I want because they will not kill me anyway. So that is just because of the recover energy shield on block. And look, as you can see, if you paid attention there, I moved for 1 second and the energy shield immediately started recovering. Let's show you the gear. The way you craft these gloves is use essence of delirium, I guess it's called. Then you until you hit a decent flat energy shield, make sure they have an open suffix. Craft chance to avoid mental ailments, then augment cold to get cold damage over time multiplier or cold resistance. I got lucky and I got cold damage over time multiplier. The belt is I just got it with I guess I was just lucky. I got it with awakener orb with increased maximum energy shield and energy shield from body armor. That's what I got with awakener orb. Then I augmented defense. I got 24 flat energy shield, uh, and I also crafted some resistance on it. And I also got cooldown recovery rate just by spamming keeping gold prefixes until I hit something good. So I got this belt. It's not really necessary. This is just fancy. Just get a belt with energy shield and resistances. For the boots, it's very important that you get boots with elemental ailments immunity, because you get 25 from crafting on the gloves, so it's like 50%, and also because like 25 on the gloves, 25 on the helmet, 50%. Here we have you have up to 35%, but I guess you only need 30%. And then from this node right here, you also get 20%. So on your boots, you need 30% elemental ailments immunity at least, um, some resistances, movement speed, and energy shield. For my rings, just get energy shield and resistances, and dexterity is very important. You get dexterity. These builds need dexterity, and there's no really a good way to get it. It's like I'm not using this node right here because I have good jewels. Excuse me, because I have good jewelry. Having some dexterity right here. Um, Here I'm not having any dexterity because I don't really need it anymore, but I have dexterity on my body armor just because I don't have the craft for with intelligence and I don't really care about it. It's like 100 more energy shield or something. And here I also have dexterity on my shield. Um, what else done is so basically just make sure you have around 160 uh, dexterity, because this is like kind of how much you need. For the phase run, dash, and also I'm not sure if Swift Affliction or Hypothermia require that much dexterity. So it's like 126, so at least 126 dexterity you need. But since I'm using dash and also I'm using a phase run, I need 160 dexterity or 159. For my amulet, I just you just awaken or orb this with a redeemer amulet and um, a hunter amulet with the +1 to all intelligence, redeemer amulet +1 to all cold skill gems. Make sure that those are the only the only mods on the amulets, so that those are the only influence mods on the amulets, so that you get +2, and then you craft increase maximum energy shield and roll prefixes, keep prefixes, reroll suffixes until you get something nice. In my case, I just got increased cold damage over time. I just crafted prefixes cannot be changed. I scoured, crafted increased maximum energy shield, augmented cold 2 times, and then I put aspect of the spider. That's how I did it. I allocated tranquility, which is this node right here. Transfiguration of soul, which is basically more spell damage depending on how much increased energy shield you have. For my shield, this is just like energy shield when you block. It's very important to have, and a lot of energy shield. Make sure you're risk capped. For the weapon, I have. It's quite easy to craft this weapon. It's a bit expensive, maybe around 50 exalts or something, 15 exalts or something. At this point of the league, I'm not actually sure. You basically get one weapon with fracture +1 to level 4 cold spell systems. This is very important. Then you use a 4-socket resonator. That is the yellow one, not the blue one. Which you use with metallic jacket, corroded, and shattering. I guess those are this is the combination. You can look it on Craft of Exile, but generally I think that and you will have almost 100% guarantee you will hit +1 to level 4 spell skill gems. Just make sure you have the +1 to level 4 spell skill gems fractured, which is around 7 exalts or something. The base, just by the base. What else do I need to say? This one, you just use awakener orb on a shape or redeemer base, which is nearby enemies have -9 cold resistance, and nearby enemies take 6% increased elemental resistances, increased elemental damage, excuse me. And then you craft a chance to avoid elemental elements. In case they have a removable suffix, you remove it and you craft elemental elements, and then you spam keeping all suffixes, reforge prefixes until you hit something decent, like I did. I used the malevolence reduced mana reservation just because I'm going to show you in a second. So now you should pay attention to my Vortex DPS, 275, right? Now I'm gem swapping. I'm using elemental weakness, bane instead of. I'm using enlighten with malevolence and discipline. I'm not using clarity. I'm using despair, and I'm also using frostbite. So this is my gem swap. Now I'm using bane to apply all 3 curses at the same time, just because I don't really want to bother with using more buttons, because like anyway there are a lot of buttons. Maybe if you want to press 3 buttons for 3 curses separately, maybe that's fine for you. I don't really enjoy it. So I'm using this, and as you can see I have 182 mana just because I have the mana just because I have the malevolence mana reduce reservation. And now my vortex is 338, but it's actually more than that because I'm using another 2 damage curse, which is despair and elemental weakness. So now if I do a map boss, they will fall very quickly, but the reason why we are not using this setup for mapping is because we are not cursing them with enfeeble. So the clear speed will be very bad because as you see no monster explode, but we just deal a lot of more damage. That's pretty much the way it works. So now with this setup that I have right here, I'm close to 6 million shaper DPS. And let me see if I can, so I can show you. So again, cold snap.
I need more mana.
I didn't even get to use frost shield. The boss vanished very quickly, so as you can see, it's a lot of damage right now. More damage than the previous one. This build can do all content except for atziri. Atziri is very difficult for this build, especially with Maven. I mean, if you don't put Maven on it, it's very easy, but when you put Maven, it's very difficult. One thing that I want to emphasize is how important are resistances on this build. As you can see on my cluster jewels, I craft a lot of resistances just because I don't get them from elsewhere. Here I have cold res, lightning res. Here I don't bother with crafting because like it's just 1 point that is going to give me some resistances. Here there are 2 points. Here again you can see that I have fire res and elemental resistances on these. So, here again I have cold res and intelligence and also maximum energy shield. This is a nice jewel. Here this jewel has 8 to all elemental resistances, so just because of that I managed to be res capped. Because like yeah, I'm not always going to have um, the curse flask out. So like it's very important you have more than 100 always, just because sometimes elemental weakness you're warding flask all the time. So it's very important you have a lot of resistances. Um, yeah, so this is the setup that I use for bossing. One thing that I want to mention, and I think I forgot, is flame dash. Which, so generally speaking, I'm using dash. This is like the better movement skill. I like it more than flame dash. Flame dash is very clunky, but for some bosses, especially for maven, so it's like as you can see, the dash moves in this direction, and does it only stops when the travel distance has ended, regardless of where I put my key. So it's like you see my if I just want to move a bit further, it moves the whole distance. Whereas with flame dash, let me show you real quick. Um, so flame dash, if I want to go here from here to here, it only moves from here to here. I can move also the whole distance like this, but I can also move just this. But with dash, you travel all the distance like this. That's what happens with dash. So for certain boss fights, I'm using flame dash. Generally, I'm using dash just because it's a better movement spell. Um, and I guess that's pretty much it. That's all I had to say about this build. Um, that's the end game version of it.